This Microtalk was presented at the February Postmortem, the San Francisco Postmortem meetup, and this is on player motivation. So the title is listed there. It's from Princess Bride, and I'll reference that later in the talk. But first I want to start with some general frameworks for games. It's kind of ways to think about games, ways to play games, ways to design games. So there's some examples listed here, and these are just some examples I came up with. I'm sure there's a lot more ways to think about games, and also I want to point out these are not mutually exclusive. You could see exploration. You could think of Minecraft from that point of view as well as from collection. But yeah, just briefly explain, exploration is pretty obvious. Narration focuses more on a story or plot. Collection, you're collecting items. Surviving, games like DayZ often involve collection. And optimization tend to be sort of puzzle games like Tetris, or these sort of strategy games like StarCraft Civilization. I want to focus on a different one though, which is motivation, and I mean specifically player motivation. So let me try and explain what I mean by this. This is Vizzini, and this is not what I mean. So he plays this sort of mind game with the Dread Pirate Roberts and the Princess Bride, where he has to decide which cup to choose, and there's no real choice here. It's a 50-50. It's a coin toss. So he's just playing the odds, and it's a game of fate. And this is just a pointless mind game, but there is player motivation being used here, and it's on the other end of the table. Dreadlord Pirates is playing a different game from Vizzini. He knows what motivates Vizzini. He knows that, I'm probably mispronouncing Vizzini's name, but that's how I'm going to say it, so whatever. But he knows that Vizzini is the type of guy to play a game of fate, and to think he can outwit the Dread Pirate. So he's playing a different game, and he knows he'll win this game, because he's, obviously he's immune to the poison, but also he knows that Vizzini will play right into his hand. So I'm going to talk about what I mean by player motivation in a few different contexts, specific games. But first, I want to talk about some advantages. So some advantages of playing games and thinking about games using player motivation are predictability. I can predict what you're going to do as my opponent based on what I believe your motivations are. That also leads right into unpredictability. I might not fully understand your motivations. Games like Civilization often have some hidden win conditions or hidden motivations that I don't know about, or perhaps the system is too complicated and I can't fully predict everything that you are motivated to do. Leads right into bluffing as well, which we'll discuss with poker. But bluffing, I'll discuss that and talk about how it's a mind game, but not a totally random mind game. And finally, impactful decisions. Something that player motivation, when you make decisions around player motivation, you lead to more impactful decisions. God, using that word too much. Anyway, some disadvantages. It doesn't really work in single player as far as I know. AI is just not a good model. You kind of want another human to interact with. Maybe someday AI will be good enough. And it's highly cerebral, so you're really thinking a lot about many different factors when you're playing a game and thinking about what motivates the other player. So poker is a game that features a lot of luck. These examples I list have varying levels of luck. So poker is more on the luck side of things, although poker obviously has a high amount of player skill as well. So there's a lot of economic investment, and real economic investment, so that is a highly motivated thing. And then risky play can result in massive rewards, which plays into bluffing. But it's a mind game, but not random. So it's not the Vizzini 50-50 thing. You might have played with another player before and know how likely they are to be bluffing right now, based on previous play and just based on the state of the game, based on how likely it is that they have a hand better than yours, and so on. Company Heroes is another example. There is some luck at Company Heroes. There are calculations somewhere hidden in there that determine if your guy is going to kill the other guy, but it's mostly based on skill and based on hidden information as well. And every action is an economic action. This could probably be extended to pretty much every strategy game. But economies in games provide a basis to think about player motivation. People are motivated by economies. Strategy is always highly motivated. And so, an example here. to take advantage of motivation. I'm setting up this machine gun battery in Company Heroes, and the machine gun battery is, you have to attack in a specific way. You can't just send your troops at the machine gun because they will get suppressed and they will get killed, and that's bad. So you want to figure out a way to counter the machine gun, and one way is to flank it, and another way that's very popular is to send a sniper. So you could use your sniper to snipe the machine gun in a way that the machine gun cannot kill your sniper. Of course, in every strategy game there is a counter to the counter. So in the Company Heroes, it's a Jeep for some reason. The Jeep gives you greater line of sight, and so you can have a Jeep near your machine gun that is giving your machine gun line of sight on the sniper, as well as having another sniper nearby. And so what I'm getting at here is that you can know just by placing your machine gun battery that you're going to motivate the other player in some way. You're going to cause them to respond by placing a sniper nearby. And if you predict that properly, because you know what you would do in their position, then you can take advantage of that. So Counter-Strike is a great example. There's not a whole lot of luck in Counter-Strike. It's mostly based on Twitch gameplay and tactics. So I want to talk about these two, tactics and conflict resolution, but really I want to just focus on tactics. Because conflict resolution, there's not a whole lot of motivation there. You want to try and put the cursor on the body or head of the enemy player and press the button. And that's a different skill set. So tactics here, we could talk about this level, D Dust. It should be just as recognizable as Mario 1-1 in my opinion. And so the terrorists start on the right, counter-terrorists on the left. There's bomb sites A and B. The terrorists are in attack and counter-terrorists are in defense. And so there's two ways that the terrorists can start off in this map. They could head up to the very top or go through the middle. And these look like equal options, just as viable. Of course they're not, but the reason is, if you go up that north option, there's a tunnel there, and it looks kind of like this. So you have to move through this tunnel. You have to push through with your team this very narrow area. There's some cover, but what's happening is on the other side, there's going to be a sniper of some sort set up to pick you off in a really good defensive position. So it's very difficult to get through this area relative to the center area. So you can take a pretty reasonable guess that your enemy is going to be motivated to push through here. And that leads to the bluff, where you can, as terrorists, move a bunch of people up top and try and get to that B site while all the counter-terrorists are pushing down towards A. So a side note here, and this plays into this picture here, it's an asymmetrical decision here. And asymmetry provides a lot of motivation, which leads to a greater depth of play. So without symmetry, you might as well flip a coin. Finally, I want to talk about Ink and Gold, which in my opinion is just pure player motivation. This is maybe not a well-known game, but this is one of my favorites, and so I'll briefly discuss how it works. The decision you make every round is stay or go. There's 5 rounds in the game, and you're trying to accumulate as much wealth as you can each round. So in the round, you make a lot of decisions to keep going into the temple or leave with all your wealth. If you keep going, there's risks, and if you leave too early, there's risks because people might get more money than you. So these are the kind of decisions you're making. As the path builds out, as every card is revealed and all those decisions are made, these gems pile up. And the way it works is all the players put a card face down, and the card is just that binary decision if they're going to stay or they're going to go. And so all the players that leave in one of these sub-rounds take all of the gems on this path. They split them up evenly, any uneven amount stay on the cards. So if you leave alone, right now you would get 8 money out of this deal, which is really good. But if you and another person leave, you're only getting 4, and that's not as good. So that's the first decision you're making, is based around leaving and getting all this money. If you leave alone at this point, you're up 8. That's very good. The second decision are these hazards. So this is some sort of mummy, I guess. But the way these work are, the first card revealed is a harbinger, and then the second hazard of that same type results in everyone still in the temple running out, and they don't get to keep any of their treasure. So there's a risk to staying in, and that you might lose everything. And finally, these artifacts, which is a part of the newer iteration of this game. But these artifacts are great. You only get this artifact if you leave alone. So some people will try and leave really early to try and, like right now, leaving would be great, because not only do you get these, but you also get the artifact. But to get the artifact, you have to leave alone. So what I'm getting at here is you're making all these decisions based on what you believe the other players are motivated to do. The artifact is worth some money at the end of the game, I should mention. But so you're making your decisions based on what you feel the other players are motivated to do at this point in the game. And it's a very simple decision. Just stay in or leave. And it's all based on how the other players are playing, how much money they have, if they can take risks, etc. So in summary, motivation, player motivation specifically, is a powerful way to think about games and play them too. There's advantages if you think about how you would play the game in another player's position. And yeah, so that's my presentation.